Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture.
And stick around because we're going to be answering your wrestling questions, and I have the best wrestling Christmas decoration ever to show you. But to start off with, Finn Balor's appearance at this Sunday's TLC pay-per-view may well be in doubt. Just been reported by PW Insider. Apparently it's an illness, not an injury, that has kept him off Raw this week. He's also been missing some of their live shows, and the beatdown that we saw Drew McIntyre give him last week was not used, or was not originally planned, I should say, to keep him off telly. It was just used to further their feud, but now they're just using it as an excuse because illness has taken him out and he may not be at TLC on Sunday.
Yeah, he was pulled off their recent tour of Latin America, I believe after the first date in Santiago, Chile. Slightly concerning this, as we've already had speculation on Braun Strowman and Becky Lynch making it to the pay-per-view as well. But from what I understand, the belief within the company is that he will be fine to wrestle Drew McIntyre. It's just another scare on a pay-per-view build that seems to have been full of them, isn't it?
Yeah, it strikes me as more of a precautionary measure, so it doesn't make it any worse before Sunday. But it would be a real shame for him to miss that because it's an intriguing match. As much as people assume Drew McIntyre is going to go over and continue his ridiculous run, aside from last week against Dolph Ziggler, it would be a really entertaining match, as much as Finn's probably just going to get buried by WWE again.
Yeah, I mean, give them 15 to 20 minutes and I'm sure they can have something magic on pay-per-view. And to be honest, Drew should probably go over, right? He's the guy they want to be a main eventer. I like Finn, but
it's not going to affect him now, is it?
He's a tiny little guy, isn't he? Anyway, from one potentially hurt or injured or sick wrestler to another, Dakota Kai. She's absolutely goosed, unfortunately. She was wrestling...
Is that the medical term?
That is it indeed. Dr. Murray, baby. She was wrestling at an NXT house show this weekend, teaming with Candice LeRae and Kairi Sane to face the Horsewomen Shayna Baszler, Jessamine Duke, and Marina Shafir. Unfortunately, she hurt herself during that match. The referee threw up the big X. She was carried to the back. Now, this led to all kinds of speculation. According to Shagger Dave on Wrestling Observer Radio, she had an MRI scan yesterday. The results are still to be made public, but it doesn't look good. Apparently, the belief within WWE is that she has a torn ACL, and that means she will miss up to 6 to 9 months of TV at a time when she's kind of starting to break through as an NXT performer.
That is a real shame. She has started to get on it recently, and one of those that's the sort of injury where some injuries you go, oh, maybe they can get it back in time, but you know that is minimum 6 months she's probably going to be out for.
It's rough. It's especially rough because her friend Tegan Knox obviously has suffered these 2 horrific knee injuries in a row as well. And you know, Kai isn't the most featured performer on NXT or NXT UK. She's very much a peripheral figure, but 2019 looked like it may have been a breakout year for her. Obviously, that is now going to be delayed. It's a real shame. She's a really good wrestler. She had a cracking mini feud with Shayna Baszler earlier in the year.
Absolutely.
And let's just hope she recovers. She's still quite young, and I'm sure she'll have a great WWE career.
Exactly, and of course all of us here at WhatCulture wish her a speedy recovery. Moving on, another update on the Colt Cabana CM Punk legal case. It rolls on and on. It's been dismissed, Colt Cabana's initial claim for unpaid legal fees from CM Punk after his obvious lawsuit that we had. But despite that, despite it being thrown out by a Cook County circuit...
Cook County Circuit.
Right,
comment section.
Court Judge Daniel Kubasiak, I'll make sure I got that right. He's also filed a second lawsuit now to take its place. So as much as one's just been dismissed, he's basically just repeated it and hoping for a different outcome.
Yeah, it's more or less identical, the new lawsuit, isn't it? It's for, again, $1.2 million total damages. I believe the reason that it was thrown out was because he hadn't provided substantial evidence that CM Punk had made the promise that he would pay the legal fees. Now, he's adjusted it slightly, claiming that CM Punk kind of shot on WWE and Dr. Chris Amann on that episode, the famous episode of the Art of Wrestling podcast, knowing that WWE were going to sue and return it. And at that time, Punk promised to pay the legal fees. Now, it's obviously a tricky one. The burden of proof is on Colt Cabana in this situation, but you can kind of imagine CM Punk doing something like this, right? I like him, but he's a bit of a dick.
I really want this to be resolved quickly because, you know, it was so fascinating when it all first came out, obviously, and it was really intriguing to see behind the curtain that much. And he's not short of a few quid, is he?
No, not
CM
at all.
Punk. I mean, Colt Cabana is probably doing all right for himself as well.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Even
but
so.
The fees could potentially, like, he's very, very successful as an independent wrestler and his brand is very strong. He's going to have a little bit of money. He lives in Chicago, lovely city. But at the same time, like, these legal fees are going to be astronomical for a man of his level, and it could potentially ruin him. It's really kind of sad the way their relationship has fallen apart throughout this whole thing, because, you know, they've put WWE away in this court case, and now they're bickering at each other. It's kind of a shame.
Happens with all good tag teams.
It does. One day, me and Adam Wilborn, grudge match in the Tyne. Anyway, our final story of the day, as far as actual news goes, there is a set of tryouts taking place at the WWE Performance Center tomorrow. Surprise, surprise. PW Insider have the inside scoop on this, and they have unveiled 4 people who are going to be at this thing. So the 2 most notable names here are Penelope Ford, who's one of the more prominent women's independent wrestlers going around at the moment. She wrestles for companies like GCW, she was in Evolve. She's also known as Joey Janela's Valley, and she played a starring role in that All-In match with Hangman Page, which was bloody out of this world metal. Crazy. The second more notable name is Eric Spicely, who is a former UFC middleweight. He was released from that organization, having gone 0-3 in his last 3 fights in August. He's been training. He has worked for Beyond Wrestling as well. One of the more prominent indies in North America today. And on top of that, we have a 22-year-old bodybuilder slash actress slash model. And we have a 28-year-old former college football player who has had several tryouts before. There will obviously be more names, but those are who we know. What do you think?
I think that's good. I think we are going to see a lot more former MMA fighters possibly trying to make the leap across, because, you know, once you've exhausted your MMA possibility, certainly once you've been a part of the UFC and maybe been cut after a while, your options are limited. Yes, you can go and work for the promotions, and there are other ones growing now.
Bellators, yeah, good payday.
But you might think, right, I've kind of hit my peak now. I should utilise my skills in another way. And there is a lot of transitional skills. I mean, Matt Riddle, Ronda Rousey,
Shayna Baszler.
Look at how many people have been coming across in the last few years, and it's only going to become more and more prevalent, I think, because WWE love leaning on that sort of thing.
Yeah, and here's the thing about all these people coming over from MMA, they're all excellent.
Yeah.
Like, how many of them have come across and sucked? None of them, pretty much. Tom Lawler doing great things on the indies at the moment as well. Very entertaining guy. Wouldn't be surprised to see him in WWE, but obviously with this new class in the Performance Center, or tryouts this week, they're not slowing down heading into 2019. Looks like it's going to be another busy year for signings. And Penelope Ford would be a great acquisition as well. But it's quite surprising, even though he's injured at the moment, that Joey Janela maybe isn't on the radar as well. But
moving on then, before we get to the greatest Christmas wrestling decoration ever, let's have some of your questions from Twitter. Don't forget you can tweet us at WhatCulture WWE. Our first question is a video from Wrestle with Andy.
Alright guys, I want you to tell me who is the best wrestler in the world today.
So Andy, what do you reckon? Who is the best wrestler
in the world today, Gangrel. It's Gangrel.
Every day.
Yeah, it's Gangrel every day. Man, it's such a tough question, such an open-ended question, and you know the comment section are going to hate me for this, but it's Kazuchika Okada. It just is. Like, his big match record speaks for itself. He's done some really interesting things with his character, kind of getting broken this year and having to go through this identity crisis, proving his versatility. He maybe hasn't had the same volume of classic matches as a result of this, but I can't think of anyone else. Someone might say Kenny Omega, someone might say AJ Styles, someone might say Seth Rollins. You're going to say Sonya Deville.
I'm not going to say Sonya Deville, although respect to her. One of the best pure strikers aside from Nia Jax in WWE. I am going to say, as of right now, yes, I completely agree. Technique-wise, Okada is incredible. But I'm going to fight the corner for WWE and say the best all-round performer, the person we all want to see. She's arguably been helped by missing Survivor Series, is Becky Lynch. I cannot wait for that triple threat TLC match on Sunday. Her promos are incredible. We did a list on some of the best things happening in wrestling right now recently.
She's great, yeah.
Every base is covered. Wrestling, obviously, we've always known that. We've seen that from day one, basically. But like I said, her promos, her Twitter game is
incomparable.
Unstoppable.
No one really comes close.
So regardless of whether or not she's on SmackDown tonight, it doesn't really matter. I'm still so hyped to see her. I obviously want to see her on SmackDown, but I think she is the full package in 2018.
Best thing in the company.
And deserves, arguably, that main event at WrestleMania 35, although we're a long way off yet.
Yes.
Let's move on to another question from Ben on Twitter, who says, what do you think it'll take New Japan and other non-WWE promotions to get a better recognition from WWE fans that mainly watch their product?
Man, there's a whole podcast in that. It's really hard to tell because no matter how insufferably bad WWE gets, people still tune into it because there is still this perception that they're the only shop in town, when in fact all the competition is really accessible in 2018. Everyone has their service. I don't necessarily think there is a short answer to this. I think that if New Japan went too far in trying to pursue an American audience, they'd have to change too much of their product to cater for this, maybe going more of a sports entertainment direction, and that would just kind of annoy the people who like New Japan for what it is now.
What got you into New Japan for the first time?
The work rate, the standard of work rate, it's a completely different level. I was just kind of sick of the sports entertainment formula. Now I've come to love WWE for what it is again. But you know, like these high-level matches in the Tokyo Dome, the Dave Meltzer meme and all this stuff, and the fact that they don't punish you for long-term investment. They reward you, and there's finer details within the matches and in-ring storytelling. It's not necessarily a better product. I'm not saying categorically that New Japan is better than WWE. It's a different one, and it caters well to my taste.
For someone like myself, who's far more of a WWE purist, I think it's fair to say, what got me into it more and more, first of all, is just chatting more with wrestling fans, because people always just want to say, oh, you need to see this match, you need to see this match, you need to see this match. And obviously the 5, 6, 7-star matches mean you kind of go, I probably should keep an eye out for something like that. But also I think what may help, and this goes slightly against your point, is bringing former WWE stars in. For example, when Chris Jericho went there for the first time, I guarantee a lot of WWE fans went, oh, I want to see what happens in that match, and therefore you watch the whole pay-per-view and you go, oh, there's this guy and there's this guy and there's this guy that I need to watch more of. And if you can get them hooked through that, and arguably, you know, Wrestle Kingdom did that for quite a few fans and really got more people involved in watching New Japan, I think that can only be beneficial. But it's just about opening more people's eyes to the product, because like you say, once you start watching it, you really can appreciate just how good it is.
And ideally, you'd be drawn in by the Jerichos, and you'll stay for the Okadas, the Ishis, the Omegas, all those guys.
Exactly. Final question today comes from Dylan Edward, who says, what is your favourite moment in wrestling that doesn't get much attention? Personally, his is when Jeff Hardy dove from the lights onto Randy Orton.
Yeah, that's a hell of a dive. Probably take it back to kind of the tail end of the Attitude Era when the Right to Censor were doing the rounds. Do you remember the segment when they tried to recruit the Dudley Boys? When the Dudley Boys were one of the hottest acts in the company, and they come down and they're decked out with the shirts and the ties, and they cut this promo about how blah 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 they're joining the Right to Censor, and then Bubba Ray says, but if putting people through tables is wrong, then I don't want to be right. And the pop when they just flip the switch and beat the tar out of those absolute nerds. Tremendous.
I used to hate Right to Censor.
But the problem with that moment is so much great stuff was going on at that time, it just gets lost.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's fantastic.
Mine that immediately popped into my head isn't really one that gets overlooked that much. I think we still reference it quite a lot on some of our lists. But it has to be Mark Henry's retirement promo. It's something that I watch probably about once every 3 months. It gets better with each watch. You get to see all the little nuances of him. You know, he breaks down the crowd, go with him every step of the way. John Cena comes in, he's being a good, smiley baby face. Oh, go on, you could hold the championship.
Go
You
on,
never
Mark.
bloody got it.
Yeah.
But have a hold, have a look. Go on, he's basically a champion now.
Take a photo with me. Do you want my autograph? I'm John Cena.
And then he obviously turns on him, rips off the salmon jacket, rips open the shirt and says, I've got plenty left in the tank, and then gets beaten on paper.
One of the greatest promos ever.
Let's overlook the whole immediately lost and it was a 1.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I really enjoy watching that. But let us know what yours are in the comment section below, and we'll move on to today's and finally.
Oh boy.
I promise the best Christmas wrestling decoration ever. And our good editor Phil is going to stick this up on screen now. Wreaths are very popular, obviously, around Christmas time. They're very festive. You put them on your front door. This man made this for his work wreath and eventually won their competition that they had. Got it put up in the office. This, Andy Murray, is the greatest Christmas wrestling decoration ever.
Look at it, it's a circle of Slim Jims.
A circle of Slim Jims with Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh, yeah!
That's tremendous, but it's going to be no good as a wreath, is it?
No.
You little tinkers are just going to come up and steal all the Slim Jims.
You're
Free
going
snacks.
to have to replace the Slim Jims regularly.
That's good. That is on par with the tattoo of Vince McMahon's face on a man's arse.
We have got a lot to live up to for the rest of this week. Let us know your favourite Christmas wrestling decoration and all the other questions and your thoughts on the news today. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and check out our new wrestling podcast by searching for What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes or Spotify. And you can check out some more of our recent videos here. Thanks for watching. I've been Adam from What Culture.
And I've been Andy from WhatCulture.
And we will see you soon.